Thank you and welcome all of you who agree to do this, first of all, and all the audience who are joining in. Thank you and welcome to this RGM session. This is season 2, and pretty soon, I think Sonali and team are coming up with season 3 as well, so stay tuned. I would like to start by giving you all a brief introduction about the speakers over here, and I'll start with Sabina. Sabina brings deep experience in commercial finance and RGM, currently heading the RGM function at Reyes Beverage Group. Before this, she led finance for a $650 million business at Pernod, where she focused on optimizing brand strategies and precision pricing execution, trade promotions, and strategic planning. She's also been a part of commercial side at WX Brands and has even run her own vineyard estate. So she brings both kind of experiences. Sabina's perspective blends big company strategy with entrepreneurial execution, something we are looking forward to hearing more about. Welcome, Sabina.
Thank you.
Next up is Justin, joining us from Albertsons Companies. Justin leads the own brands, category insights and RGM team. He brings over 15 years of experience across retail and CPG, having worked with brands like Pernod and the Coca-Cola Company. His approach to RGM is rooted in data, with a strong focus on pricing, promotions, and category strategy. Justin's background in finance and commercial planning gives him a well-rounded view on how analytics can drive real business impact. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you.
Last but not least, Victor Arias. Victor comes with over 20 years of experience in FMCG, currently leading RGM for Mondelēz International's Mexico business. He has held leadership roles across shopper marketing, trade, and commercial strategy, both regionally and globally. His focus areas include price pack architecture, mix management, and promotional strategy, all with a strong emphasis on cross-functional collaboration. Victor's practical insights and global lens are sure to spark some interesting discussions. Victor, welcome.
Thank you, Saurav.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. And the format is going to be like I'll start with a question each. We'll ask a question to each of you, and then we'll have a couple of more rounds wherein we'll have different perspectives. I'll couple a question between the two of you, and then lastly we'll have a fireside a chat kind of a question. First up, Sabina, having led both commercial finance in large corporations and your own vineyard business, how has that dual lens shaped your approach to building agile, high-impact RGM strategies?
Yeah, I would say, owning a vineyard definitely taught me the importance of margin discipline, pricing precision, long-term brand value, which I think are all key pillars of RGM. Really grounded my understanding of how pricing affects every link in the value chain, from grower to shelf. I would say, being part of a multinational corporation on a commercial finance team really trained me more on being data-driven, deeply analytical, focusing on efficiencies, and really understanding, I would say, how to evaluate growth risk and how to implement RGM strategies that don't just drive the top-line results, but create more sustainable profitability. So 2 different perspectives, but I think the fundamentals are very synonymous. So.
Yeah, and rightly said, the finance function typically teaches you discipline, control, and long-term financial planning, obviously short-term as well, but long-term financial planning, which is more of a key from a financial perspective. And running your own business makes you biased for action, actually. You need to take actions, you need to quickly fail fast kind of strategy needs to be there so that you can experiment and reiterate your cycle and move towards a successful combination.
Absolutely.
So perfectly. With that, I'll come to Justin. Justin, you're managing your own brands at Albertsons, and it gives you a front row seat to how private labels can unlock growth. How are you shaping RGM differently in that context compared to the national brands?
No, great question. I think really it boils down to right now the economy is such that where consumers are more price sensitive than ever, right? Inflation and tariffs are threatening the grocery industry. So I really think that our approach is to satisfy the whole value proposition, right? I think that really our products, I'm really proud of our own brands products at Albertsons. We offer the higher quality, sometimes even better quality solutions than national brands at a better price. And I think at a better price, we also have a great opportunity and a great value at our price pack architecture, where we offer a better value for more. So think about our club package. So your 40 packs of water, your 24 packs of paper towels, those kind of products where we have a better value at a greater volume. It's really fascinating to see how private label really is the foundation of a retailer, or it should be the foundation of a retailer, because we drive trial, right? And by driving trial, we lead to repeat purchases, whether they stay within private label or whether they trade up to national brands. But really our motto is one more item in the basket. And I believe that,
Yes.
with a strong private label business, that you can drive trial in multiple different categories and increase trade up.
No, absolutely agree with that. I think while you're running your own brands, private label, you have an end-to-end responsibility. Unlike you're getting in from our national brands. Therefore, the onus, as you rightly said, is more on quality and value, right? So it bangs on to the point. Coming to Victor, right? Victor, you've worked across global markets, right? As I introduced you, you've worked both regionally and globally. How do you ensure your RGM approach balances the local relevance with global scalability?
Well, I think in the end, local will trump everything else. Yet in global companies, you want to ensure that the strategy for each category and each brand, talking about the world of FMCG, it's clearly communicated across all the way down to the market and all the way down to the customer. There are global brands. Right now, I can say Oreo, it's one of our global brands. Yet, we don't have a specific price positioning across all geographies. It may vary. In some markets, it's a very premium brand. In some markets, it's mainstream. And we even have examples where in some markets, it's not even playing the mainstream, but they're really driving volume through excessive promotion. So you can't really align the context, the global context, to the local reality, but you do want to make sure that you convey clear messages within each RGM pillar. You want to make sure that from a global perspective, you really ensure that markets and regions understand that you may want to have a couple of points of pricing above the category. That's something that they will understand, and I think it's reasonable if you have the value for the brand. You want to make sure that every promotion you make is making money for the company, is making money for your customer, and for the retailers as well. And so you want to make sure that you embed that into the planning, into the tools that you use. In terms of price pack architecture, you want to give guidance regarding how do you link that to the consumption occasion, to the demand moment, and then the sizes, the grams, the liters will adapt to the local reality and the channel. And then you want to, in terms of mix management, you just want to convey a message that you need to balance out and probably sell more of the items that have more profitability versus the ones that don't and that drive complexity in your supply chain. So it's really about setting the framework, showing the intent of what you want to do for each category, the role that that category plays within the company, the brand that specific brand has for each market or each region, and then give a little bit more freedom in that framework for markets to ensure strategies that enable a sustainable volume growth and margin growth, of course.
Yeah, rightly said. What I believe is absolutely the principles of RGM are global, right? The levers are global, but how do you play them at the local level changes the game altogether. You talked about price pack architecture, right? US, every pack size is large and large, right? While we go to countries in Southeast Asia and Asia, India as well, smaller packs rule the roost, right? That drives the consumption. because there's a huge amount of countryside in these countries, wherein you cannot sell let's say a Coke bottle for $1 or something. You need to come out with a local smaller packs of around 25 cents or something, which actually sell a lot more over there. So having these innovations, having these niches for that specific local market changes the game altogether. But yes, as you rightly said, the principles are global. The levers are global.
Correct. Fully agree.
Absolutely.
You're talking about what Justin was saying. It's crucial even for what's the role of private label within the strategy of the manufacturer, because there is a role for private label, there is a role for national brands, and then when you go, as you mentioned, in emerging markets, coinage is everything. You need to have a lot of value for money that you can sell in wholesalers and clubs, which a lot of consumers are going in that direction. But when in emerging markets where you have a demographics that wins a couple of dollars per day, price point and coinage is everything. And having the right distribution, the right value proposition across each of your road to market, it's crucial. And price pack architecture will play a very relevant role in defining that strategy and making sure that you're successful.
Absolutely. Bang on, Victor. Next question is for Sabina and Justin, both of you. You can start in any manner you want, but you're both been at the front lines of pricing and promotion strategy, right? How do you balance short-term wins with long-term brand equity when making these trade-off decisions?
I'll say for me, it's really having a disciplined approach between your financial objectives and your brand strategies, and then really, understanding what are the objectives, and balancing that, value versus volume, and the potential impact on price perception and brand positioning, and then looking at, is it sustainable or is it repeatable? Because what may work in a short term and may seem like a win, if you have to lap that the next year. So yeah. You really don't want to make short-term decisions that, will have consequences down the road. So for me, it's kind of finding that alignment and that balance. I don't know, Justin, what your thoughts
100%. When it comes to promotional strategy, I kind of stick with my old roots there, with Coca-Cola's OBPPC. So that's occasion, brand, package, price, and channel. But I've adapted that to bring to Albertsons, but instead of channel, we don't segment, we segment customers. So that last C is for customers. So we do a lot of really intensive consumer research on our loyalty data, and we gain a lot of insights out of that. No pun intended, right? But really, it allows us to attract shoppers to us, in the ever-changing landscape that it's just harder and harder to attract a shopper when there's so much competition out there. So I think that allows us to play and be more competitive. But again, when we're looking at short-term and long-term investment, it's driving trial and getting those repeat purchases. Those are key to long-term growth, right? Take a chance on us at $1.99, right? You won't be disappointed when the national brand's at $3.99. Yeah. We're trying to do with our strategies are to simplify promotions and break down these hurdles and hoops that they have to jump through in order to get the promotion, right? Instead of buying, having to do a treasure hunt across the store to collect 5 different items to save $5, here's $1 off one thing, single price point. So there's a lot around that, and even surprise and delight where people are just happen to be in the store and they see a yellow tag on the shelf. Even though we're subsidizing that volume, which, if you're unfamiliar with the term, is basically giving it away at the same, you're discounting a purchase that was already pre-planned. So that's perfectly fine, because at the end of the day, it's a unique balance for me and my team, because we are a CPG manufacturer inside of a retailer, right? So that means that we have to do what's best for us, but I can't dilute the entire category with private label. So, it's a really delicate balance. And so part of that is, ensuring that we retain or gain loyalty among shopper groups and our shopper types. We'll do short term that lead to long term to stem some leakage that we'll identify. So if we're leaking products to a different retailer, which then increases our closure rates and increases trips. So really allows us a lot of, and then with all that, we have a lot of pre and post analysis on our promotions. So allows us to do some A and B testing. And when we talk about pricing, so maybe this product or this category shouldn't be a high-low category. Maybe it should be more of an EDLP. So an everyday low price with some shallow promotions here and there. So a ton of data that we analyze and really try to make the most data-driven decisions that we can.
Definitely. If I'm going to combine both of your answers, Sabina and Justin, what I'm hearing is, this is analogous to building your wealth via a short-term intraday trading or a long-term equity or a mutual fund kind of thing. Wherein you're building wealth for a long-term thing and short-term gains as well. So what you do is you use tiered objectives. You would look at short-term tactics like promotions or a limited time offers. Something like a Black Friday sale, right? Which are designed to look at the short-term quarter gains or meet the quarterly targets or the monthly targets. Whereas the long-term equity is more around, Justin, as you said, building the brand equity, building something wherein you're moving towards, let's say, premiumization, right? And then you both worked at Honorica in your earlier stint. I work with them, and I see that in India, at least for the last 3-4 years, they're moving towards very, very consciously to the premiumization of their brands. They want people to move to the premium brands, right? So that's a long-term strategy that you might want to take, and that's where you cannot dilute your brand by giving day-to-day promotions, EDLP or which you want to make, right? So absolutely bang on. I think both of your answers were would pretty resonate with the CPG firms across the world who are doing this, right? Now the second aspect to this question is around the people, the functional collaboration, right? And Sabina and Victor, I'll come to you now. Both of you lead RGM in your companies, right? With deeply distributed operations, you have global operations. How do you build RGM muscles across large decentralized teams while ensuring the consistency in the execution?
Go ahead, Sabrina.
Okay. I think the number one is aligning on RGM principles. So, price pack architecture, defining what success looks like. What success looks like could be different for different functions within the company. So I think the company needs to align on some sort of standard or threshold. Understanding for us, especially in the US, the dynamics between supplier, distributor, retailer, and customer. We've got, a 3-tiered distribution system in beverages. And so really understanding how the market dynamics play out really helps define kind of our route to market, our RGM strategies. And so I'd say, one is aligning on those principles, the common language in which we speak. And then I would say tools and capabilities is really key. And that's where I think, companies are investing in those tools and really empowering our people to make good business decisions that are on the front lines, And so I'm personally right now, in a new function within a distributor. I'd say, RGM is fairly new to a lot of distributors in, the beverage world. And I think it's great because we're partnering with our suppliers and, our retailers and really starting to mine the data and make better informed decisions that we're not just order takers. We're really partners. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I fully agree with Sabina. It can be a challenge. I held a global role with Nestle, precisely rolling out RGM, and I think a crucial point was picking your battles. And what I mean by that, it's within Nestle is a very decentralized company. They will have CEOs for Europe, for the Americas, for Asia, and they can literally do what they want with it within the region with some global guidelines, but they're very independent. And even in decisions of where should we place RGM? Should it be in sales? Should it be in marketing? Should it be in finance?
Yes.
Those were tough decisions. And in the end, what we decided was to be very straightforward about our pricing guidance, our promotion efficiency, and kind of our mix, and then be a little bit more flexible in terms of other topics, like where should RGM be? And then we decided it should be in the area that in that local reality has more influence and ability to win within that market. So if it needs to be in finance because the local knowledge is there, it will be in finance. So we were pragmatic about that. And then it also depended on available data. A lot of emerging markets will not have sufficient data, or it will be very traditional trade driven. And you don't have a lot of consistency in that data. Unlike in the US and Europe, well, you're going to have very granular data, so you have bigger teams. So team sizes also reflect those different realities. So you need to be flexible on that. And then the size of the business. Are you a large market or a small market, depending on the brand position that you have in the market share? So that will drive a lot of decisions. So we basically, to ensure that everything was consistent, you pick your battles in terms of the RGM pillars that you want to nail, and then you're flexible in the structure and in the way you roll out your execution.
Right. I think one more aspect which you both touched upon briefly is around the governance part of it, right? Having a make a checker kind of concept, or something which can be built into the business routine itself. For example, I've seen with some of my clients, like, pricing council is there, right? A local country or a brand is thinking of pricing, but it has to get approved from there, because does it make financial sense to go into that kind of pricing or not? Or the promo reviews, right? You mentioned, Victor, how is the promo efficiency, right? Somebody is there to be a guard on that. It's been done fine, it's been done right. And then when the actual numbers flow in, the variance that you can check through various tools and applications, right? All this kind of, and the KPI frameworks around it, right? All this kind of reinforces the behavior change that you want to have in certain aspects to drive in the people, right? So that, the consistency is there in the execution. I think that one aspect would be there as well. Now, with this, I'll move to Victor and Justin. And this is a very important question. And, I love asking and having a CPG guy or a, manufacturer hand in hand going on with a retailer, right? You both come from two ends of a spectrum, different spectrums, right? How do you see retailer-manufacturer collaboration evolving in the next few years, right? Especially with the rise of AI and shared data ecosystems. I'm sure you both are sharing a lot of data with each other, right? Primary, secondary, tertiary, whichever data is being, the brands, the SKUs being sold, at what rate they are being sold, right? All the data is coming back and forth. So how do you see your relationship going forward in the next few years, given that AI is all around it?
Go ahead, Justin.
Okay, so I put some thought behind this. This is really good. So I really think where a retailer and a manufacturer are going to see more collaboration in the future is, I know it's kind of a bad word, but it's going to be investment. Right. So I know a lot of us on the call, we always talk about how much you're going to invest, and we invest in our own private label in Albertsons. Yeah. But that being said, our trade dollars are working dollars, as many of our budgets are. So trade has to work harder. I have to squeeze every drop out of a dollar, especially at a high-low retailer, which we are. So as the landscape gets more and more competitive, the dollars have to work even harder. So what that means in terms of a retailer, I think bringing more realistic forecasting, especially around ROI, performance, and execution, is going to be more important than ever. I also think that sales, not necessarily the sales leads for manufacturers, but the sales leadership, category leadership, really have to up their game in terms of thought leadership, right? They need to come with creative ideas, whether that's cross merchandising, whether that's bundling, et cetera, and best in class insights, honestly, to drive value, because that it's not just retailer versus retailer, it's manufacturer versus manufacturer, and it is cutthroat, to say the least. I guess another thing that we're really sensitive about is cost, right? So costs are all-time high, but we need it to be all-time low at the same time, right? So that's where the investment comes in to offset some of the costs. But really, it's the threat of profit and margin compression. As costs go up, we necessarily can't take retail, one-to-one increases or so. And I think part of we're talking about our margin and our dollars working harder. I think manufacturers are really going to have to lean in on digital. So for our team, for example, our budget has shifted dramatically from in-store scans at the shelf to more digital. And we've seen an unbelievable increase in our ROI and our ROAS. So, and then it's part of rewarding that shopper that we call good, better, and best, right? So our elite and best shoppers are digitally engaged. So we want to reward them by, with these digital offers. But I would expect a retailer to know all that because they know our business. I'm sorry, the manufacturer should know the retailer very intimately and also drive the same agenda. But I don't think it's a one-way street. I think that manufacturers deserve and are entitled to increased retailer accountability to ensure the suppliers are getting what they paid for, right? So if we're saying we paid for 10 displays per store, we got to make sure that we get you 10 displays per store rather than, oh, thanks for your money. Here's a display if you're lucky, right? Yeah. I've seen retailers do that. When I was with Coca-Cola, there were retailers that would do that where we would pay for support and space, and we wouldn't get it. So I always thought that was really unfair. So I think that it's a two-way street. It's definitely about partnership and collaboration, but it boils down to hardworking trade dollars, better costs, and better execution.
Absolutely, Victor.
Nice. That's why I let Justin speak first. I want to make sure I'm fully aligned, but I fully agree. And Justin said it. I think understanding the retailers' KPIs, what they care for, it's crucial in your strategy. An amazing RGM strategy that's only internal and it doesn't end with the customer buying in on it. It's useless. So it look very amazing. You may have an amazing price strategy, indexes versus your key competitors, a pipeline of innovation and price pack architecture. But if your customers are not buying it, it's useless. So I think any good RGM strategy ends with your customers buying more, right? Yep. From the retailer, because that's going to be usually the way you reach them, and they need to be happy about it. I think there's been an evolution. If you went to talk to retailers 30 years ago about category management and category development, they were very eager to hear about that, and you brought a lot of insights on that topic. Probably after that, it was about how do we build better digital, as Justin was mentioning, and even going beyond the US, where in the pandemic was a key moment where when I was in Nestle, we helped local retailers, small wholesalers that were willing to go into the e-commerce space. And they didn't know how to. So as a manufacturer, we actually helped them with a roadmap, with tools, with a lot of support of how they can build that. So being at the front edge of technology from a manufacturing point of view, you can leverage that to actually secure a way to collaborate easier with retailers. So I think that's crucial. And when we think about the future, definitely being at the forefront of AI and how we're connecting insights and how our retailers can use that is going to be something that's likely they're going to be very keen to hear about it and to let you in. On the manufacturer side, you can't just ensure that your strategy is consistent, because usually, and Justin, you know this, they will tell you, well, your competitor is doing this better than you. So you need to make sure that you're always doing better than your competitor and you're keeping your retailer happy. And that's difficult. But if you're consistent, if you're advanced in technology, if you have a consistent strategy, if you really value your consumer and you have products or services that are really tailored to them and that they're willing to pay more for it, your retailers will be happy. And those are kind of my 2 cents. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Justin. What am I missing?
Absolutely. Give us more money. No, that was
exactly. Oh, yeah. Come on. That's always the case. That will always be the case.
I will tell you that the merchants are laser focused on what you're doing with competitors too. So you can't really pull a fast one on a lot of merchants out there either.
It's a healthy competition that benefits many times the retailers.
Yeah,
sure is.
Yeah. I think that is going to go forever, right? I mean, it's not going to stop now or 5 years from now, but I think the collaboration between the manufacturer and the retailer is going to increase more and more. And when I say collaboration, obviously there's operational collaboration, but the data collaboration is going to increase much more with the time. And both of you are, both manufacturer and retailer are set to gain from it, because the insights that the retailer is giving to the manufacturer in terms of the last mile customer, right, consumer who's using it, and the reviews that they're getting, right, that is going to be of tremendous importance to the manufacturer. They can come out with product innovations. They can come out with different promotion schemes or long-term product innovations that is only going to sell more, and therefore it will obviously gain the retailer as well. So I think that data collaboration is going to increase more and more in the coming time. And that's where my next question is as well. With so much data available, AI can help you cut through the noise, obviously, but only if it is used wisely. And Victor, you mentioned it, right? The US, the data is very granular. Data is there in a large abundance, and therefore teams are also big in size. Whereas in other geographies, that data might not be that could be of that good quality, right? So how do you ensure AI tools enhance decision making without losing the human instinct that's so critical in RGM, right? And any one of you can answer. And Justin, if you want to start, or Victor, if you want to start.
Yeah. I read an amazing quote that AI will never be held accountable, right? So it can't make a decision unless you tell it what to decide. So it'll never replace human decision. It might replace certain aspects of getting to that decision, but I think at the end of the day, a human is going to have to make that decision, because AI can't be, what are you going to do, fire him? That's not how that works. But I really think that AI in the future will be incredibly helpful, especially with data cleansing, data collection, data integrity, data, right? My only, I shouldn't say experience, but my concern with current trends in AI is that if you don't have good backwards looking data, you're going to have a really hard look at the forward looking data.
Yep.
So it's hard because you can't necessarily make a prediction without a trend. So, if you did something that failed in the past, doesn't necessarily mean it'll fail in the future, but based off of the data that the AI or the model has, it will look like a failure.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would say, kind of my thoughts on AI is use it to challenge yourself. And to challenge, your assumptions and what you're doing, and use it as another vantage point. I don't think we're at the point where it's going to dictate what we do, but I think right now it would be an enhancement just for the data mining, and to try and put some order, where sometimes it feels like a needle in a haystack, especially I think from a distributor point of view, where we have hundreds of suppliers and we have so much data that even our tools can only handle so much that I think the enhancement with AI is going to kind of help lead, help us focus maybe. But right now I would see it as an opportunity to challenge, what our insights are.
Yeah.
Victor, your thoughts?
No, I fully agree. I think it's going to be a while it takes for AI to actually be making that decision. I think there will be a future that it's so embedded that we'll have to treat AI like children. I have kids, and kids teach you so much. They teach you so much about leadership and how it's going to be our leadership when you don't have to tell employees what to do, but you have to tell AI what to do, So it's like with your kids. I can't fire my kids because they're my kids. And I have to make sure that they do well in life, So I can't fire, eventually I won't be able to live without AI, but I want to make sure that AI is driving the right decisions for my company, for anything that I do. So I think there's going to be a mindset evolution talking about leadership, about how do we start managing AI instead of people. And that's going to be, it's not just about the best prompt that you can do to make sure that it does what you want to do. It's how does it enable sustainable growth in the long term. Yeah. And I think if we're thinking about AI as co-pilot, which is probably the next phase, they're being a co-pilot. There are a lot of things that we need to sort out. If AI is your co-pilot, the plane needs to be flawless processes, an amazing integrated data lake, a clear direction of what AI should be and should not be doing. So I think we still have a long way, but it's very exciting times ahead. Believe me, I agree.
Definitely. I think you guys, all three of you, put it very succinctly. 3 years back, AI was a baby. Right now, it's in adolescent stage, if I can say so. Still does not have the driving license, so it cannot drive us still. It's still going to have, take maybe another 5 years to get to that stage wherein they will have the driving license. Waymo is there driving you around, California, but still, the actual AI running the business is still a bit far. Having said that, I think the human plus AI, right? AI is not going to replace humans, but human plus AI, that combination is definitely going to replace only humans. So, we need to move with the times. I think that combination is going to get lethal in the next 4 to 5 years. One other question, which everybody is very keen to understand, and specifically to the US, entities, how is tariffs hitting you? What's the impact of tariffs in the business from the manufacturer side as well as from the retailer's perspective?
Oh, wow. Where to even start, right? So I think right now where it is more of a threat to the business as an actualization. It hasn't actualized, I should say. So we're still kind of up in the air. There was another court ruling today that delayed tariffs, put a pause on tariffs, whatever you want to call it, even further. So, But we are at risk for a significant amount of, I can't really get into it, just proprietary reasons, but it does start with a B. So it could be in the billions for tariffs, especially when you think of components of our goods, like citric acid comes from China. You have aluminum that comes from Canada. You have produce that comes from Mexico, et cetera, et cetera. It could go on and on. It's one of those things where pennies make pounds, pounds make tariffs, if that's a good way to borrow a phrase. So it really would add up quickly in the grand scheme of things. So we are nervous about it, but we are prepared at the same. We have a tariff advisory committee that is, largely around supply chain and sourcing that have their finger on the pulse. But we were kind of famously highlighted because we've already sent letters to suppliers saying we will not accept price increases due to tariffs. Whether or not we can actually, we could either be with product or without product, depending on how that goes, right? So it's more of a threat than actualized. So that's really the bottom line. But if it does happen, I would fully expect to see everyone's grocery bill kind of climb.
Yep. Sabina,
regardless of retailer. Yeah.
They are hearing you.
Yeah.
So any thoughts, Sabina and Victor?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, when we have product coming from outside the US and components, that go into the products, I mean, it's a big concern for all suppliers and distributors. We just have to be cognizant of it. And I think that definitely there will be investment, from the suppliers, from distributors. I think everybody's going to have to lean in a little bit. I mean, it's a big concern. I know already in the US, we have demographics that are, we're seeing data coming out that, people are buying groceries already on layaway, and it's a real genuine concern. So there's a lot of pressure, but nothing has happened yet. And, we'll pivot. I mean, I feel like we're resilient. I feel like our industries, will do the best that they can. So.
Yeah. On my side, I can bring the emerging market angle to it.
Yeah.
I think outside of the US and mostly developed markets, which are used to very flattish levels of inflation, it's obviously it's making a lot of noise. What the reality is, it's that there is a separation from globalization. You are going to see a slowdown in that, if not a full separation. But in terms of the impact that it can have, we've had markets like Argentina having 600% inflation. We've had markets, even from the pandemic, most of the Latin American markets and even the emerging markets across Asia, devaluations of currency of 30 to 50%. So I think the playbook in a lot of emerging markets and businesses, it's a little bit more resilient and used to having this. Even for Mondelēz last year, we've experienced cocoa prices being 5 times the price that we're used to. So I think in the end, demand and supply and the elasticity curves are gonna trump everything, and I think retailers are gonna have to rethink how they grow. Manufacturers are gonna have to rethink how they grow, and I think what's clear is that we're gonna need a lot of more communication, making sure, because I just heard Ford is saying we're lowering our prices, an automaker, right? Before the tariffs come. So go buy everything. So we're gonna be seeing a lot of those strategies. Why would you lower your prices if you can sell the same amount of cars in 3 months when tariffs hit? They're not gonna be selling the same amount of cars. So they're gonna be very mindful of pricing. And what we need to navigate for our shareholders, it's what's going to be the growth algorithm between volume, price, and then the underlying profitability that a lot of the FSFG companies and retailers are going to have in the future. So that's where I see the big shift is going to make. And I think there are a couple of more quarters that are going to, set down that new reality for investors to understand what needs to happen in terms of your P&L.
Great. I think those perspectives are really valuable to the audience. I think we did not think from many of these aspects, right? So thank you so much for that. Now, the next three questions are there, which will be kind of rapid fire. You can answer them very quickly. And I'll start with you, Sabina. If you had to sum up the future of RGM in one word, what would it be?
The future of RGM. I mean, I would say balance. And when I say balance, it's going to be balancing the competing priorities, right? So it's the balance between, price and volume. It's short-term versus long-term gain. It's brand equity versus promotional efficiencies. So, retailer needs versus the customer expectation. I mean, that's huge. So to me, I would say, it's finding that balance between those priorities.
Great. Same question for you, Victor.
On my side, I think it's more connected. And thinking about the future, I think what AI will enable it's more data points. You're going to be able to successfully link more data points, and that will likely allow you to squeeze more value where you can. Right? We're going to have now these constraints, tariffs, uncertainty, things moving forward. Looking at the future, thinking about a retailer business. What if you have a specific occasion where, I don't know, millennials want to go into the store at night, and that enables you to open the store later, but you can price that because you already modeled that. You can pay a premium for opening at those hours, because they want to see the variety. They're tired of just buying online. You can put some value on that because those data points are going to be connected to AI. What if you can, within the bandwidth of the willingness to pay for a specific SKU that you have in your store, Justin, you have out of stocks or you have very low coverage, you don't have stocks. What if you can price 3% more when you have low inventory, and you're willing to and the customer is willing to pay for that, So I think as AI will enable us, as margins are more squeezed, new ways to actually identify how we can also not leave more money on the table because of those new data points that we'll be able to leverage in the future. So that's why, for me, connected is what I think is going to be crucial for RGM, thinking about AI.
Awesome. Balanced, connected. Justin?
Critical. I think without a sharp RGM strategy, we're just not going to hit our P&Ls, right? Pricing, it's interesting to kind of piggyback off of what Victor said. Was I'm not going to say I'm a proponent, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was dynamic pricing in the future in retailers based off of time of day, based off of day of the week, based off of location. I think there might be enough Robinson-Patman argument where it might not happen, but I still think that it will at some point. I did see a really good example of this during the pandemic I think it was in Denmark. It had a jar, a pump of hand sanitizer. One was $1.99, but if you wanted two, it was $200. So it was a way for them to avoid the hoarding, right? Like you would see where someone would go and buy the whole shelf and then sell it all on eBay for $50. So it was really fascinating to see that kind of approach, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that in the future. But as far as critical, the RGM team and I think category and insights are all part of RGM. All is going to be critical in the future to hitting that P&L, because as margins are compressed, as costs, tariff, whatever threat you want to call it comes into play, RGM has to balance that, and we have to connect that to the rest of the business in order to drive a P&L.
Awesome. I mean, this is a great perspective, and I just hope my marketing team is listening to this and model my RGM solution around these three keywords. So with your permission, I'm going to utilize these three words in my RGM solution. Thank you so much for that. Now, coming back to the AI, right? It's becoming central in many parts of the world to the decision making in RGM, right? From pricing to promotions, we are using it almost in every aspect of it. Now, which is the one area which you see that AI is making a tangible impact, and which is one area which is still untapped? And Justin, I can start with you.
Untapped. Personally, for me, I think an area where if I were creating an AI and I was a really smart data scientist, which I am far from, I would love like a morning bot to welcome me when I open my computer. Say, hey, good morning, Justin. And then it would inform me of like, here's some trends that you might not have noticed. Here are some opportunities for the day. And here are some blind spots. I mean, we have a $17 billion private label business at Albertsons. A brand that might be doing $25 million or a product that might do $25 million might be in my blind spot because it's not top of mind. Where say, hey, don't forget about me, that would be amazing. And then if it happened to incorporate all my data into one source that I could pull from, that would be another just icing on top of the cake. But where we are right now, I've seen some really impressive modeling that certain AI companies have done with existing data. Some of it feels almost too good to be true. So whenever you see a model that's not my data, I'm like, I don't know about this. But I've seen some pretty impressive modeling where they would say, here's what a forward-looking promotion would look like. Here's when you should promote, and how many times, at what discount depth, at what investment, and this is what you should expect. But I've never seen it from my view as a retailer. I've only seen it as my view as a manufacturer, because honestly, when I worked for the Coca-Cola company, I didn't care how much the retailer made. I cared about how much the Coca-Cola company made. Yes. Right now, I have to be cognizant of and sensitive to how's the category. How does my cheese business doing? How do I fit into this cheese business? But how does the whole category play? Because at the end of the day, I have to deliver a holistic P&L. Yep. So that's really what I would love to see. Somebody that thinks like a retailer, not just a manufacturer.
Sure. Victor? One place where AI has made an impact, another.
Yeah. I think to be completely straightforward, I think there's still so much basics that need to be closed in terms of RGM. So many companies are still lagging in key things. And maybe the US is a little bit more advanced, but there are so many, even big FMCG companies that are not there yet, that everything that they don't even have the data organized in a way to allow them to make faster decisions. So I still see a big segue for this to for AI to actually enable a lot of more stuff. I still see a lot of PowerPoints, a lot of making presentations to take to the leadership team to tell them why they need to do this type of pricing or this type of promotion. And I still think that we're moving a bit more prescriptive and kind of forecast a little bit longer. But it would be amazing that an AI system has such level of credibility, like Justin mentioned, that you could just go in a meeting, get the latest results, and ask your AI agent, could you simulate what putting pricing down this much will be for my P&L? That would be amazing. That would be something amazing to do, instead of so much PowerPoint and endless meetings trying to come up with a strategy with faulty data. That would be my 2 cents.
Sure. Sabine, I'll change the question for you because I think we are short of time. But if you could have an AI assistant that could solve one major problem for you on the RGM space, what would that be for you?
I guess one area that it kind of ties into the earlier question that's maybe untapped is, I think the AI can do a lot of the simulation. I think it's going to be contingent on having the historical data to make some of those recommendations. But I think what's missing maybe is the storytelling piece that accompanies the RGM strategies. And it can do the mathematical computation, but could AI potentially tell the story and add that commercial context to the promotional strategy, not just give you quantify the results. So I think hopefully it'll learn over time with the inputs and be able to help craft that story. So
yeah,
could be interesting.
That makes sense. Folks, if you're okay, I would like to take 1 or 2 questions from the chat. I think audience has put in some questions. So there's one interesting question from Aditya, and we were discussing about the local execution of promotions and all, and the question is related to that. That since it was mentioned that pack architecture in emerging markets is often approached primarily as a cost lever to drive penetration and affordability. But how do you evaluate the success of pack change beyond just volume uplift, especially when considering the long-term brand equity, margin sustainability, and consumer perception? Long question, but again, towards the balancing part of it, that at least specifically in the emerging markets, how do you balance the the affordability and the penetration vis-a-vis the long-term brand equity?
Yeah, I think it's a long question, but let me see if I can synthesize. Anytime a company is looking to do price pack architecture because of internal struggles, for example, I need more margin across this brand, and I'm not able to take pricing. So it's just a downsizing. It's not going to be as impactful. Every time it's short-term driven and very operational, it won't be that impactful. As you move for it to be more future-focused, consumption-based, on-demand moments, and those occasions, that's where the big growth happens. So Justin knows this. If Coca-Cola is just taking a couple of milliliters out of the bottle, instead of really leveraging on what's the occasion that you're trying to address? Is it a PET bottle? Is it a can? Is it a glass bottle? So linking it to that towards a future focus occasion, you're going to receive more growth. So that's what we always try to do. Usually price pack architecture behind just downsizing, it's really invisible pricing. When you're trying to reach a new price point for a new occasion, and you're really thinking about the user, you're saying, for example, there is an Oreo, and I'm thinking that this guy is playing a video game, and he goes to the store once a week, and his consumption is 6 cookies. You need to tailor something to that consumption occasion and that demand moment, and then tailor something with your retailer that addresses that. When you click on that, that's a big win.
No, definitely. I think there are different short-term adjustments as well. For example, if there's a inflationary thing going on, inflation is on a high, I've seen many manufacturers reduce the size of the pack, but they keeping the pricing same, right? So 100-gram packs become a 90-gram or 80-gram for the same price, just to keep the consumer perception okay about the pricing, while they are okay with the product slightly decreasing. And that's where I think the price pack architecture plays a huge role. Another question, how does the future of RGM look like to you? More automated, more predictive, or more centralized? Also, what role you see of AI agents or generative AI in the next wave of RGM? Any of you can take this.
I'll take the first part about the future. And I guess easy way, I would just say, yes, we would be more automated and more predictive and more centralized. I think when I was in centralized models before, it was a lot easier to have faster decisions and to take action on a broader scale, as opposed to hyper-local pricing or promotional actions. If you're looking at a channel, for example, let's say you're looking at supermarkets as a channel, you could take a pricing approach across, a certain region, a certain channel, a certain customer, certain banner, et cetera, as opposed to doing certain price areas, which it's just the granularity is tedious. But I think a lot of that with the automation, if you put the right rules into an AI model and ask the right prompts, you could say like, hey, for San Diego, I want to have this price, but for Los Angeles, I want this price. And then that would be more predictive, because then it would also have the predictive and analytics behind that. But I think a lot of it is the centralized decision making is really important too. I haven't really had a lot of good experience with AI agents or generative AI. So I don't know if I'm the right guy to speak to that.
Yeah, I think just in the thing that you were saying a few minutes back about, every morning you're getting up and getting a lay of the land for your RGM space. I think that is something that AI agents and generative AI is going to get to you in, maybe in a year's time itself. Every morning you're getting a report saying, this promotion is going well, this is not going so well, this is what you need to do today, and your sales team needs to achieve this much. Your particular stores are doing well because of these reasons. So therefore, a similar store somewhere else can do this, utilize the same strategy that these good stores are using, right? So all of that would be coming to you via AI agents if we configure them right. I think that's where the future could be, wherein insights are generated and taken to the consumer instead of consumer coming into the insights.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. I would say, especially in beverage, and depending on what type of beverage, I mean, we've got pricing that's done at the county level. And so it gets very granular. And, you multiply that out by the number of brands, number of suppliers. So I think where AI and where RGM needs to go is to bring some process and order to managing the data, because it quite frankly is overwhelming. And right now we have a lot of fragmented systems or separate systems. They don't all talk to each other. So having that one repository where all of that data is fed into a centralized system, and then you've got to build the processes on top of it, right? But I think speaking again from the beverage point of view, having strong brand strategies, financial goals, but then it needs to adapt locally, even within the U.S., within the state, and then even down to the county level. So building, kind of those rules within the system and the tool to be able to generate those insights, is going to be key.
Oh, yes. I think, Sabina, your industry is quite complex in order with the closed states, open states, different kind of, taxation and so on and so forth. I think it's not easy to, roam around that. So I think we are 2-3 minutes top of the hour, and thank you so much. I would like to, really, really grateful to have you, to all of you to agree to do this, and we appreciate your participation. Thank you so much, and it was lovely, conversing with you. I could take a great deal of insights from all three of you, and I'm sure the audience would have got the same. So again, thank you so much, and you have a rest of the good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.